There's a lot of instances where it's not about how well you can say something, but whether you can adapt to somebody's communication style. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren. I am your resident intuitive baddie. And there is an important lesson that I am understanding in my own life that I would love to share with all of you. So, you're here. I was having a conversation with a friend, and it was I was trying to help her through a situation where she was dealing with somebody gossiping about her, and she kind of named it to the person, but the way that she named it kind of triggered a defense mechanism rather than what she actually wanted, which was she had wanted accountability. And the way that she was seeing it was she was almost feeling as though she needed to remove herself from not just this friend, but everything that comes with this friend. So the place where we all connect and where the rest of her group of friends would also be interacting with this other friend. And I had her stop and kind of take a step back to one, take back kind of the focus from that friend's actions and put it back on her feelings, but then also to see where she might have gone wrong in communicating. And something that is being made very, very clear to me as with a connection that I just got out of. You can check my other recent videos if you want the play by play with that. I'm not going to rehash it here. Is that sometimes people just have different processing styles. And a lot of the times, you might be feeling that you are very clear with what you're saying, but it's not landing for the other person because the way of their processing and the way of their viewing life is not allowing it to land how you think it's going to land. And I think if more people tried to adapt to how other people communicate or how other people process things, we'd have a lot less friction in the world between people. Um, so in particular for me, what I'm understanding about myself is that my way of processing is very quick, and it's very detailed. I process very much in the moment. I'm able to name what I understand to be happening, and I'm able to kind of lay it out in such a way where I'm able to understand it that way. And by knowing all the information surrounding whatever it is, that helps me process and move through certain things. But what I'm understanding is that not everyone needs all of that information to be able to process. A lot of people need less. So, for a lot of people that I end up in dynamics with where there's friction, a lot of the times the other person is somebody who processes slower and needs to just get to the point. Whereas I like to go through why something happened, where it went wrong, how I can prevent it again. Some people just need the direct, to the point, concise information dissected from the whole explanation that I need for myself for them to just sit with and process over time. And something I'm starting to learn to let go of is the way that people display their accountability. Because for me, I've always thought that if somebody isn't able to name what they did wrong and take accountability that way, if I can't get more or less a confession out of them, then it's because, they know what they're doing wrong and they want to keep doing wrong or whatever. But it's just like, I'm starting to understand that for some people, it's not that. It's not necessarily that they don't know what they're doing wrong, but because they're not able to understand or conceptualize what it means, all they can understand is that they did wrong. And rather than to be able to own up to it and take accountability, they hide from it because it feels too big and it feels like they can't come back from it almost. But that's not the case. And that's typically not the case when people like me are asking for that. But sometimes what I'm realizing is it comes through in how they choose to act moving forward. Because sometimes I feel like there's a lot of people with this processing style that are also a little bit more, or can come off more avoidant. But really, they put that distance and space because they don't want to hurt you again. And because they're not able to really name what they did or understand and process why they might have done what they did, rather than to actually go through that processing, because they haven't been laid out plainly with whatever it is, they just put that distance so that they just know that they won't do it again because they won't interact with you. But that doesn't mean that it won't come up again for them. And so I truly see having a good conversation, a very conductive, not conductive, what's the word, constructive, sorry, a constructive conversation is very helpful for both sides because it'll allow you both to process and to make changes moving forward. But when the two styles are competing constantly, then nobody, it's not resolved for anybody. Like for somebody like myself, I've always thought that, oh yeah, because I understood, I analyzed, that means that, I'm going to be able to pick it up and I'm never going to go through this again. And I have been just very beautifully humbled and shown that it very much will continue unless I decide to try to get, until I try to change how I approach and how I relay these things to somebody else with a different processing style. I'm always going to run into this problem. And I can't always avoid people with this processing style because like I said, there are examples like my mom where I can't just avoid her. I can't just cut her out of my life and move on and think that things are going to be dandy. Um it's like there are definitely people that that applies to, but she is not one of them. And there's other people that are, it's typically with family where you feel that you can't actually run away from these things. But I mean, don't get me wrong, there's other places too. There's places in like the workplace. Sometimes you can't just up and quit because of somebody. Or there's, it's just like sometimes it's not so serious that that measure needs to be taken. But when that's the only response or are familiar with, that will become the default response. So I think one of the things that as I'm learning for myself and sharing with the rest of you, and hoping to change within the world, even in this small way, is how can we communicate better? How can we actually resolve and close these loops in a way that is healthy for both sides? And this isn't to say that you need to force or lower your standards for somebody else. This is being able to meet somewhere in the middle where you can meet somebody where they're at and still, and then be able to be received in a way where it meets you where you're at, or where at least you can understand it in a way where it's satisfying enough to meet you where you're at. Something that I think I didn't understand before understanding the different processing styles is when somebody would say that you need to meet people where they're at, I I wasn't understanding how I could do that without lowering my standards or lowering myself to be able to meet them where they're at. But meeting someone where they're at doesn't mean meeting them at the level of consciousness that they're, or the level of how of action that they're putting towards you. Like, it doesn't mean stooping down to their level when it comes to action, um or how they might talk to you. It means finding finding their processing understanding style and communicating that way. It's more like translation as opposed to dumbing yourself down. Because yeah, like, I think even the fact that I put it that way is extremely offensive to another person, when they might be trying their best. They might be trying their darndest to do their best, but because they haven't gone through the things that you've gone through to be able to be at the level of consciousness that you are at, it can be very discouraging for somebody who's trying to pull themselves up to continue to pull themselves up because they're not doing it the way that you want them to. And the thing about this world, the thing about relating in this world, is that not everyone is going to relate like you. And we learn to relate better by adapting to other people as well. So it's about figuring out your core so that you're not moving your position, but at the same time, being cognizant enough to translate your understanding to somebody who wants to have the same understanding as you, but doesn't process that way. Yeah, I think that's a good note to leave off of before I ramble on into another cycle of saying the same thing. I think that's concise. So, that being said, if you are somebody who would like help with understanding these processing styles, understanding how you and somebody else might be processing different, and understanding certain situations from a perspective that is outside of you, that is more neutral, and that can help you come to more of an understanding for both parties, and not just cutting people out of your life left and right, because it it works in extreme cases, but it shouldn't apply to all cases. Hit me up. I am One of the many things I do is life coaching, and that is one of the reasons why I love sharing on here the things that I have learned throughout my own life, because it's helpful to others. So if you would like guidance through anything that you might be working through, where you might feel that your own ego or your own judgment is clouding what you can actually see, hit me up. Links in the description, email in the description. And if not, I just want to thank you for listening. And until next time, bye.